Hello, Prepper Journey here. Glad you could make it. It's a beautiful day in north central Idaho. Today is Wednesday, March 10th. And I came up here on the ridge to get a better radio signal. Been monitoring my radios. I've got a new mag mount antenna on top of my Outback. Sometimes you got to go to your magic location in order to get any kind of a signal, instead of being down in a hole.
South Boulevard in Maine, Montana, 455-4480.
Have I discussed with you how important it is as a prepper to be able to monitor the radio waves just so that you can stay informed on what's going on? So I've been testing out both my Baofeng and my Yaesu. I've got an FT60 and a Baofeng UV5R. It's an older model, a few years old. It's only a 5-watt. I've got a battery pack on it for AA batteries. One of the issues that you might find on these when you get them is that the batteries don't seat really securely. So one of the things you might want to do is tweak the springs, the little contact springs on them, on the positive side of the AA batteries, so that you can make sure that they're seated firmly and you don't lose power when you set it down or jiggle it or something like that. So you want to have good power. That's the one thing I just figured out on it. I've got this new mag mount antenna. It's a Nagoya that I bought for my Baofengs. But I also bought a set of connectors for the cable that goes to the antenna on the top of the car. So it's a mag mount, so it just pops up there. And this is the little connector that I've added to the end of the cable so that it would fit my Yaesu FT60. And it gives me some more gain compared to just a regular antenna on top of it, especially up here on top of the ridge on a hill. I can get a lot more range. So I just wanted to share that with you real quick. Also, another thing I did today, and as a prepper, I think it's important that whenever you have spare time, when you're not working, when you don't have other obligations, try to do something productive. Whether it's checking out your new comms and making sure that everything's running right, or it's something as simple as making sure that your RV is running correctly and you have good gas for your generators, things like that. So I had several gas cans of regular unleaded gas that had been sitting over the winter in storage, and I had Sta-Bil in them, so I wasn't too worried about them, the gas going bad. But it's been 3 or 4 months since I sat them aside, and I figured it was time to do something with them. Time to rotate. It's a good idea to stay on top of that. Gas, if you go online and you read up on it, gas has certain properties that, if left in storage for very long and it's allowed to have oxygen in it, that it evaporates off and it begins to separate, and it begins to become like a varnish inside when it starts to turn dark. and it can mess up your fuel injectors and your fuel lines and can coat things inside of your fuel systems, and it's not good. Bad old gas is not good. So it's a good idea to remember to rotate after at least 6 months. If you've got Sta-Bil in those cans of gas that you've been setting aside, it might be a good idea to think about using the gas in something, whether filling up your vehicles and going ahead and then replenishing them and starting another 6-month rotation. I think that would be a really good idea. You don't want to be stuck with bad gas when you really need it. Diesel, it would probably last about twice as long. I've heard with proper storage and the right treatment in the fuel, that diesel will last up to 3 times as long as gas. So if gas lasts about a good 6 months or so, maybe up to a year at the most, if you've got Sta-Bil in it, then you can expect the treated diesel to last 2 to 3 years in storage. And again, you might want to check online to make sure that my thoughts on this are correct, but I'm pretty sure I've done a little bit of studying on that. I don't use diesel myself. I use primarily unleaded gas, and there are certain additives that you can add. In our case, we have a 1995 Chevy 454 engine in our RV, and it's electronic fuel injection, and it is susceptible to clogging of the injectors and so forth if you don't keep decent gas in it. One thing I have found, though, that the tank system is relatively sealed. It's sealed pretty good, so you're not going to have a whole lot. If you keep your gas level up above 3/4 of a tank, you're not going to have too much evaporation. So it's a good idea, if you are going to sit over the winter like we have, to make sure that your tank is pretty much topped off. And that way you don't have to worry too much about too much evaporation and going into separation and going bad on you. I've added a fresh 5-gallon can of some good gas to it. I plan to add a little bit more because it wasn't completely full. I left a little bit of headroom so that I can add some fresh gas to it at the end of winter time, because it's been sitting for 3 or 4 months now. So that's just something that I thought you guys might want to be aware of. So if you rely on gasoline for your generators, for your vehicles, for your RVs, things like that, for your ATVs, snowmobiles, motorcycles, whatever the case may be, you want to make sure that you rotate out your gas and go ahead and use it up, replenish it, put some Sta-Bil in it or some kind of a fuel stabilizer in it, and then set it aside for another 6 months to a year. But you want to have good gas when you need it. You want it to be dependable and reliable. You want your equipment to last, your carburetors. I know that you don't want to gunk up your carburetors if you have systems that use carburetors like I've got a 1998 Yamaha XT350 that I love, and I've had a lot of work put into it. But it is carbureted, and I don't want it to gel up and gunk up the carburetor. So I need to make sure that I put good gas in it. I run it every once in a while. It's not, you definitely don't want any vehicles to sit for too long without running them. So you need to, idle them every once in a while, rev them up really good if they're just sitting like my RV, and you won't run into any problems. So that was really all I wanted to put out to you. just make sure that if you do rely on gas fuel and or diesel, that you have some sort of rotation in mind and you rotate it out in a decent time interval, so that when you do need it, it is there, it is in good shape to get you going, and you don't run into any problems. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. Hope you all have a wonderful day. God bless all of you. Prepper Journey out.